Welcome back to the shop. Working on the GTO again. Forgot the gears. Need to go get the gears. Gonna go get the gears. Welcome back to the shop. GTO is in the shop because, well, clutch is doing weird things, so we're going to pull the clutch out and have a look at the release bearing, and we're going to check the pilot bearing as well. I've had trouble blowing those things up, so we're going to put in a pilot bushing. While the transmission's out, I need to replace the rear seal on the tail housing because it's leaking, and it's leaking oil onto the X-pipe, which then smokes. And stains the X-pipe too. So there's going to be another video on the exhaust on this thing, so you'll probably see that in that video. While I've got the transmission out, we're going to pull it apart because I've got some new gears to go in there. So this is the headstock set of gears, so the fourth gear and the forward cluster gears. So I'm going to be stepping up all the ratios in the transmission by stepping up the primary drive here. So this will give me more first gear, but it'll also give me more second gear, more third gear as well. Fourth gear is not going to change because that's 1-to-1. So hopefully this is going to help me get my 60 foots down further. You know, I was in the mid 150s already. I'd like to be into the low 150s, if not the high 140s with this car. So a bit more first gear certainly isn't going to hurt that. Transmission's also pretty noisy in the first three gears and quiets down in fourth gear. So I suspect that the headstock gears are making all of that noise. So hopefully these gears are going to quiet that down as well. So again, I'm fortunate. I've got a lift, so the car can go up. I can walk underneath it, do all the stuff that I need to do. But before the car goes up, I need to loosen off the fan shroud and the finger guard here, and because the engine's got to tilt, so I can get the transmission down. And when the engine tilts, the fan goes up at the front. I need to unplug the harness for the reverse light switch as well. Yes, racing transmission, but I still have a reverse light switch on there because street car. So we'll do that quickly, and then we'll get underneath the car, pull the exhaust off, pull the drive shaft out, cross member, shifter, transmission bolts, transmission out, and then bell housing off. And then we'll have a look at what's going on with the clutch while we're at it too. So let's get after that. with the transmission out, we can have a look inside and see what our pilot bearing looks like, and it actually looks perfect. Okay. Release bearing's still nice and tight, so not sure what fork is good. Clutch levers are all good and tight. Everything looks good. Not sure what was weird, but we'll open up that transmission and see. Maybe the weirdness is inside the transmission. Let's hope not. All right, we got the transmission out of the car, so we're going to get it off the trans jack. We're going to drop it on this little portable workmate thing and start tearing it apart, and then use the workbench for the innards and this for the outers, because I just don't have enough workbench here, and all my other workbenches have other projects going on them right now. So it's been a couple of years now, actually, since I last tore into this transmission. So now I got to try and remember how it comes apart, because these things don't come with manuals. And yeah, hope that I can put it back together properly too. So let's see how that works out. Oh, man, I can't imagine how much heavier that thing would be if it didn't have a complete magnesium case. The innards in this thing are just so beefy that all of the weight is from the innards. Okay, so I'm not going to bore you with all the details. This is probably a good time-lapse opportunity to tear everything down, so let's go do that. All right, we got the transmission as far apart as I need to get it apart. So we got the input shaft off, and we've got the first gear on the cluster that's out. So that's what we're looking at on the bench here right now. So input shaft gear and front gear on the cluster. So this is the pair that we're going to replace. So this one's easy. It's out. Just take the new one, slide it onto the splines, put the cluster shaft back where it needs to go. This one, I'm going to need to pull the snap ring off here, slide the bearing off to get that gear off, and then put the new one on in reverse order. So let's do that. because Fail is my middle name now, we can't get this thing back together with the new gear on there. The new gear is just slightly thicker than the old gear, so there is a shim between the bearing and the gear, and I don't have any thinner shims in stock. And you'll also notice that the bearing doesn't want to come off the front of the input shaft, so we've got a problem with the snap ring groove on the front of the input shaft too that I'm going to have to address probably with a file. So anyway, so we're going to we're going to see what we can get from G-Force and see how long it takes to come, and we'll pick this up once I have that. All right, we've got our new gear in, and we just got to put one last snap ring on here to get our input shaft assembly together. And make sure that snap ring is seated. In the groove all the way around. And it looks like we're good. Okay, so now it's just a matter of putting the transmission back together and then throwing it in the car. No problem, right? It's several days later, but I think I've got the strength today to actually heave this thing up on the trans jack and then try and get it back into the car. Taking it out, gravity was on my side. You know, even with the trans jack and the lift, putting it in is more difficult because there's always that last, you know, half inch that wants to fight you before the trans goes in, getting the splines lined up and getting the pilot bushing lined up. So that's when, you know, all the transmission jacks and everything in the world aren't going to help you. You still got to manhandle the thing in there. So we're going to give it a shot today. So I'm not going to bore you with all the footage of putting this thing back in the car because it's pretty much the opposite of what you just saw. So I mean, I honestly could just take the old footage and run it in reverse if I really wanted to. But again, I'm not going to bore you with that. So we'll throw this thing in, hook everything up, and then we'll go for a drive and see if it's quieter, see if the weirdness with the clutch is gone, see if I can feel the difference with the increased ratios, and yeah, hope that it all works in the end.
All right, so it's crazy windy out, even with the windows rolled up. I don't know if you can hear me, but I can feel a little bit more gearing. I mean, it wasn't a huge change, but I can feel it. The transmission's a little bit quieter too, so I guess the old gears were a little bit worn out. Now, I mean, you can still hear a lot of gear noise, but I mean, they're straight cut spur gears, and that's what you're going to get. I'm getting a little noise from one of the tailpipes that's rattling against something, so I got to go back and adjust that yet. But as far as the transmission and the clutch, everything feels okay. Now, it's kind of early rush hour, but I've already got some traffic behind me, so probably not going to be able to make any full throttle runs until I know that there's not any cops hiding behind me and all that traffic. Okay, so that was still within letter of the law. I guess I wasn't speeding. And yeah, everything seems pretty good. I'm not getting any weird feeling on the clutch pedal anymore, so I don't know what the problem was before. Everything looked fine. Maybe I just needed to re-grease everything. At highway speed here, I'm not really hearing any noise, which is good, because before I was hearing a bit of noise. That made me start wondering if the release bearing was starting to do things. So yeah, we're gonna call this one done. So, assuming that you can still hear me, if you like this video, give me a thumbs up. If you like the video series, then subscribe if you haven't already. Share with your friends, and leave me a comment, because I do appreciate them. So thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.
Welcome back to the shop. GTO is still in the shop, and I can't remember what I was supposed to say. Welcome back to the shop. GTO is still in the shop, and man, I'm hurting today. Let's try and remember the end of that sentence. Welcome back to the shop. The GTO is still in the shop, doing a whole bunch of different things here, and a whole bunch of videos. I'm not sure what order they're going to come out, but yeah, who cares?